So many years ago, not that many, but anyway, many years ago, while I was visiting my cousin and his family, their youngest, who was 7 at the time, knew that I was a preacher and told me, no matter what you preach, you need to start your sermons with a joke. And he said, my friend's dad does that, and it is cool. Now, Emerson has a point, and yet most times, it's difficult to find a joke that fits the theme of the sermon. But this morning, I give you Calvin and Hobbes. I'm at peace with the world, Calvin says. I'm completely serene. Why is that? I've discovered my purpose in life. I know I was put here. I know why I was put here and why everything exists. Oh, really? Yes, I am here so everybody can do what I want. It's nice to get that cleared up. Once everyone accepts it, they'll be serene too. As many comic jokes go, you are laughing, but there is often a solemn truth that is no laughing matter. It's really developmentally normal for a kid Calvin's age to think of himself as number one. However, it becomes a tragedy when a child grows to be an adult and never comes to value everyone having divine worth. King Xerxes, a leader with much power during a time of excess, was one such person. A king who felt that the world revolved around him and everyone should follow his wishes. And to show off his kingdom's riches and his beautiful palace and all of its treasures, he put on a lavish, over-the-top party for the officials and noblemen of his very large kingdom. The party lasted 6 months. I don't know how rulers could be at a party for 6 months and still have a kingdom after that, but that's how long it lasted. And then that wasn't enough for the king. After that party was over, the king threw another grand banquet for 7 more days. This excessive partying was not to thank the officials and the noblemen, but to impress them. The king pretty much lived for himself and for his glory. He wanted all eyes to be on him. It's after that long, extended, excessive party with alcohol freely flowing that the king orders his queen to come. He has spent days impressing his guests with his wealth, and now he wishes to impress them with her beauty. He's accustomed to owning many things, and that sense of ownership extends to his wife. She is just another thing to show off. But Queen Vashti says no. She sets her boundaries. She values herself, her dignity. She knows her dignity. She knows that she's not just a piece of property to be flaunted and used. Her refusal to appear before the party guests, however, sets off a national crisis for the king and his officials. They fear that her rebellion will inspire a similar rebellion in homes all over his vast empire. So they pass a law declaring that every man shall be the master of his wife and his home. You know, it took courage for Queen Vashti to say no to the king and to risk his displeasure. And it took courage to say no to her husband and to risk her marriage. It took courage to value her integrity over her royal privilege. Queen Vashti is our role model for saying no to folks who wish to control our lives. We don't have many role models for saying no, especially in the Bible. It is true there are times that Jesus put his foot down, but we tend to think of our Christian faith in terms of saying yes. Yes to God, yes to Christ, and yes to love. Maybe we need to hear that it is equally important as Christians to find the courage to say no. No when we need to. Because there are times, many times, more times than we like to admit, that the right and loving response is no. True, the outcome may not bring us serenity, the wish that Calvin has. In fact, setting boundaries and keeping the boundaries rarely does bring serenity. Vashti's story doesn't seem like a victory story to us. She does not save the day with her definitive no. In fact, in the eyes of the world, she loses. They take away her crown, they take away her position, they take away her prestige, they take away her good name, and her actions inspired a pretty harsh law. But in the eyes of God, it is something different. She does not only inspire the next woman, the Hebrew woman Esther, who takes her place as queen, to say no, but she encourages men and women alike to stand up to those who deny our dignity and attempt to breach our boundaries. I don't know where Queen Vashti got her courage, or for that matter, why she even considered herself as valuable enough to say no. Because in a hierarchical, patriarchal culture, the king was the top, the most valued, and his officers and advisors were just down the ladder, the value ladder under him. The queen and all the women would be merely property. You know, our understanding of God as Trinity is not hierarchical, but a mutual circle of grace. As we allow the Trinity's circle of grace to influence how we relate to one another, we will honor each other, respect each other's gifts, and respect each other's growing edges. As we adults interact this way, as our children see us free to say no when we need to, they will learn as well to value themselves as well. Last year, while visiting my son and family, we were at the kids' school end of the year class presentations. And during my youngest grandson, who was 8 at the time, or 7 at the time, his presentation of his class, they all had poems that they wrote. And their puppets read the poem. And I noticed that someone else was reading Benny's poem. And the oldest grandson, Freddie, leaned over to me and in a very matter-of-fact way explained, "Gigi, Benny gets shy when he must perform in front of others." And that was it. It made me so happy. My heart was happy to the fact that Benny could say no. He had practiced that poem many times in front of his classmates. And saying no that day did not bring a stigma attached to it. Nobody made fun of him. He has boatloads of friends, and they didn't chide him for reading his poem. And his family didn't bring it up in front of his pop-up and Gigi. Teaching our kids that it's okay to say no and not dishonoring their no, like allowing them to say no to hugs even to aunties and uncles, helps bring dignity and trust in that child. Giving children permission at a young age to say no will help them have courage to take a stand and do the right thing when someone in their group of friends decides to lead the group down an inappropriate path. Jasmine Fernando, a Christian author and advocate of equality, says that we, each of us, men and women, children, boys and girls, we are Vashti when we break ranks from our tightly knit groups, whether they be family or friends or church or community. When we refuse to speak and act as they do, when we feel it isn't right, even if it causes our group to feel uncomfortable and angry, or even feel that they've lost public respect. And so we brace ourselves for the consequences. Perhaps a friend we like will stop hanging out with us, or perhaps we'll have to live with the discomfort or the constant tension with a beloved family member. Discarded, disregarded, maybe even publicly humiliated like Vashti was. It is never, never okay to treat a human being like an object. Each of us bears the image of God, and each of us needs to honor one another by our speech, our actions, and our thoughts. Each of us, every single one of us, is a beloved child of God. Amen.